And welcome everybody. We are here at Indianapolis. Finally, it is race day at the PRI Hoosier 500. We are live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway on what is set to be a massive day in sim racing and open wheel sim racing. And we're excited to be here and bring it to you. Well, my name is Tanner Watkins. I'm the president of the PRI Hoosier 500. And I'll host Today at the 500 pre-race show presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply, live here on the PRI Hoosier 500 YouTube channel. Before we go to the big broadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube pages. Well, we'll set the stage here for what will be an awesome day going green in just about 3 hours from now. We are not short on storylines. We've had some breaking news already this morning. Qualifications had its own intrigue and heartbreak, as it always does, last weekend. Hard to believe that Bump Day was 1 week ago. So we'll lead things off with our breaking news story this morning, and you'll see at the bottom the starting lineup for today's PRI Hoosier 500, the 33 drivers that were scheduled to take the green flag. We'll make a slight adjustment there because, unfortunately, we've had a driver drop out. So Henry Bennett, driver of the number 700 machine, has had to withdraw from the race. He let race officials know of his decision this morning, and that means every driver from 27th on back will make a move up the grid, and that means Noah Carmichael will also be in the Hoosier 500 now. He was the first alternate, just narrowly was bumped out of the field when unfortunately Brian Carey, in his case, made his way into the race on the very last qualifications attempt of the weekend. So Noah Carmichael, tough luck on Bump Day, but he finds his way back into the field. When Henry Bennett withdraws, Noah will start 33rd. That means the revised starting lineup we'll see in 27th, where Henry Bennett would have started, Nick Lucci, the driver from the Sim Racing Club at Purdue. He'll move into the outside of row 9. Matt Hollabaugh moves into the inside of row 10. Brian Carey will now be in the middle of row 10 with Jacob Bradley, another Sim Racing Club at Purdue driver, on his outside. In row 11 now, it'll be Lucas Lodato starting on the inside with Chris Fowler in the middle. And the aforementioned Noah Carmichael will ride shotgun on the field. He starts 33rd on the outside of row 11. That'll bring number 90, Logan Edwards, to be the first alternate now, in case any additional drivers were unable to make their way into the race. And Will Weiser would be the second alternate. Additionally, Will would be the final alternate. There will be no additional alternate drivers added to the lineup at this time. So if two additional fell out, then we'd field the field with Edwards and Weiser. If a third driver fell out, then we would start with 32. Want to give a little bit of a shout out to Henry Bennett. Certainly he wanted to give it a go today. Circumstances didn't allow him to, but this is a driver who had made a start in each of the first 4 editions of the Hoosier 500, dating back to 2019 and the original name, the Open Wheels 500. Henry started 5th and finished 3rd at that 2019 inaugural running, and that ended up being the only race to this point that he's finished every lap at the 500. He finished 31st in 2020, an early exit after 25 laps. Due to an accident. He finished 20th in 2022, but was 1 lap down on the field. 199 laps completed. And in 2024, last year, started 12th and finished 25th, 182 laps complete. So this is one of the best drivers in our discipline and in our sport here on iRacing. It's a shame to lose Henry this morning, but we wish him the best, and we expect to see him back at the Hoosier 500 next year. On the flip side, for those of you who may not have been following us throughout the month, and you're just tuning in for the first time here on race day, who's Noah Carmichael? Well, Noah's the driver of the number 86 machine for East Coast Autosport, carrying sponsorship from Peak Performance in what is one of the prettier liveries for sure on the grid. A nice Peak blue car out there driving the 86, and Noah does a great job in the NHRA media scene, is on the beat and understands a lot of what's going on in the drag racing world, and is well versed and well connected too. Does a great job with a new approach to covering our sport, which has largely been very traditional over the years, and we really appreciate having Noah in the media room and his efforts in covering the National Hot Rod Association. And, of course, he's not just a fan of the NHRA. He comes over here, does a great job basically on his own, working with Presley Sora to build a set that give them a chance to make the race. He just missed it on bump day. As we mentioned, Brian Carey bumped him out with the very last run of the day last Sunday. Again, Noah hangs in there, first alternate in the field this morning. One of the drivers with almost 500 laps of practice completed, if I recall correctly, throughout the month of December. So Noah's definitely put in the work. He'll be a worthy starter here, starting 33rd and filling in again for Henry Bennett. So we will take a quick break. We've got plenty more storylines to cover as we kick things off here on race morning at the PRI Hoosier 500. Coming up a little bit later, we'll have Billy Morgan from Cusick Morgan Motorsports joining us, one of our close partners and a team that's making a lot of noise in the NTT IndyCar Series and now moving into Indy Next. We'll talk about Morgan's plans and some exciting things going on with Cusick Morgan Motorsports in 2026. We'll talk more storylines, including former winners and the heavy hitters that are in the field for this year's race. And we'll have performances by the Purdue All-American Band and Morgan Gruber coming up a little bit later. You're watching Today at the 500, presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply, live from the 2025 PRI Hoosier 500.
look up, out there, the universe stretches further than we can imagine. Filled with possibility, filled with potential, filled with untapped speed. When those lights drop, it's more than a start. It's ignition, a launch sequence, a controlled explosion of power and precision. Feel it. The violence, the beauty, the electricity of pure speed unleashed. This is the frontier, where innovation meets adrenaline and brilliance turns wrenches at 2 a.m. This is engineering at full throttle, fueled by vision, grit, and a relentless push for the next tenth of a second. Every detail matters. Every decision counts, because excellence is not an accident, it's built. And this is the heart of it all. You, the racers, the dreamers, the doers, the builders, the tuners, the storytellers, the believers. This community isn't just connected by speed, it's powered by passion, a passion that refuses to slow down. Every race is a chance to push limits. Every lap a challenge. Every finish line a reminder of why we chase this life. Winning isn't just a moment, it's a mission. Landing on the moon? Well, that's racing's version of a perfect pass at 300 miles an hour. So buckle in, because this week, we go wide open. This week, we celebrate horsepower, innovation, and the people who make racing roar. This week, we reach beyond limits, beyond expectations, beyond gravity itself. Welcome to the PRI show. Let's show the universe what racing is made of.
And welcome back to the virtual edition of the world's greatest race course. This is the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, live this morning at the PRI Hoosier 500. Introducing our Countdown to Green timer presented by Visitor Watch Company. Visitor Watch Company, one of the partners of the PRI Hoosier 500, a boutique watch shop in Greenwood, Indiana, owned by Phil Rodenbeck, who also created a unique, one-of-a-kind PRI Hoosier 500 watch that was shown this week at the PRI trade show. He's already gotten sales on it. So if you're interested in checking that out, make sure to visit visitorwatchcompany.com. That's at visitorwatchco.com. And check it out. It was a really cool project. We got to go in deep and behind the scenes a little bit with Phil on, what it takes to build a unique timepiece from the ground up. We used his Dune Shore model to build out what ultimately became a casing that resembled a piston, complete with PRI and Hoosier 500 markings and coloring that make the watch unique. Very cool piece. It's got an awesome leather strap that has a carbon fiber look with really clean red stitching. So take a look at that if you haven't seen it yet. A really cool watch that makes the Hoosier 500 just all the more special this year, and it's partners like Phil that help make that happen. All right, so just under 10 minutes until Billy Morgan joins us at about 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. So wanted to give a quick shout out to our two former winners that are in the field as we start to kind of move through the storylines for today's race. There's obviously a ton of heavy hitters and drivers that have had successes in the iRacing Indy 500, in Indy 500s in other leagues. But when we talk about the PRI Hoosier 500, there's a couple that certainly stand out. We do not have Michele Costantini, the inaugural 2019 winner, with us here at this year's race, but we do have the rest of our wins in the race's history represented between Phil Kraus, who starts third, driving the number one machine as our defending champion for Team Hype with Powerslide Motorsports. He'll be on the outside of row one. His 4-lap qualification speed was 228.484 miles per hour. And who will be starting right behind him in the outside of row two? Well, that'll be our other winner of this race, two-time winner, Hugo Olsen from Sweden, also driving for Powerslide Motorsports. He will start sixth with a 4-lap qualifying speed of 228.365 miles per hour. And Olsen actually ran the same time as fifth place qualifier teammate Alexander Van de Sant, but each of those drivers, obviously they ran identical 4-lap times. The tie is breaking by single lap speed. So Van de Sant had his first lap just a bit quicker than Hugo's, so he starts in the middle of row two, and his teammate Olsen will start on the outside of row two. Hugo Olsen is the highest starting international driver in this year's race. We had drivers from 16 different countries on the entry list when we started the month of December. Ultimately, the race is being represented by, I believe, 5 different countries. That includes the United States. That includes Sweden, where Hugo Olsen starts 6th, and Seb Alexander, driving for Indy Alliance Racing, he'll start 21st on the outside of row 7. That includes the United Kingdom, where Dylan Freckleton will start 22nd. No longer does he have a UK teammate with Henry Bennett pulling out of the field, but Freckleton will start 22nd, and he has made each of the first 5 Hoosier 500s now as an independent driver. And I think my count was a little off. It's actually just 4 countries represented, as Brian Carey from Canada starts 29th. He drives for Powerslide Motorsports, was a day 2 qualifier, has decent speed in that machine, as we expect all the Powerslide cars do. But Brian Carey, again, couldn't qualify on day 1. That's why he slots in as one of the better day 2 qualifiers. But he will not start near the pointy end of the grid like the rest of his teammates. He'll have to come from the middle of row 10 in his Rev Limit Racing Powerslide Motorsports Chevrolet. So just about 5 minutes until our first interview of the day, when we welcome in Billy Morgan from Cusick Morgan Motorsports. Just a reminder, today's big broadcast starts at 11 a.m. Eastern Time with the full slate of pre-race ceremonies. That includes the national anthem, the flyover, taps, the rifle volley, and of course back home again in Indiana. That'll all happen live at 11 a.m. on the PRI Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube pages. So you can watch it on either platform, whichever you prefer. We'll be streaming to both. Again, that'll be at 11 a.m. Eastern Time on the Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube pages. Well, we'll take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring Billy Morgan into the broadcast booth, talk a little bit about real-life IndyCar and their plans for 2026 and beyond, and see what Billy's thoughts are on sim racing, too. You're watching the Today at the 500 pre-race show at the PRI Hoosier 500, presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply. Just over 2 hours and 40 minutes now till green flag at the 5th running of the Hoosier 500.
Look up. Out there, the universe stretches further than we can imagine. Filled with possibility. Filled with potential. Filled with untapped speed. When those lights drop, it's more than a start. It's ignition, a launch sequence, a controlled explosion of power and precision. Feel it. The violence, the beauty, the electricity of pure speed unleashed. This is the frontier, where innovation meets adrenaline and brilliance turns wrenches at 2 a.m. This is engineering at full throttle, fueled by vision, grit, and a relentless push for the next tenth of a second. Every detail matters. Every decision counts. Because excellence is not an accident, it's built. And this is the heart of it all. You. The racers, the dreamers, the doers, the builders, the tuners, the storytellers, the believers. This community isn't just connected by speed, it's powered by passion, a passion that refuses to slow down. Every race is a chance to push limits, every lap a challenge, every finish line, a reminder of why we chase this life. Winning isn't just a moment, it's a mission. Landing on the moon? Well, that's racing's version of a perfect pass at 300 miles an hour. So buckle in, because this week, we go wide open. This week, we celebrate horsepower, innovation, and the people who make racing roar. This week, we reach beyond limits, beyond expectations, beyond gravity itself. Welcome to the PRI show. Let's show the universe what racing is made of.
All right, and welcome back to the PRI Hoosier 500. It is today the 500 presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply pre-race live from Indianapolis. Well, about to be joined in the booth here by a very interesting figure in the paddock and somebody who's making a name for himself and this team making a name for themselves in short order. We're going to bring him into the studio now. And joining us now, I believe, Billy Morgan with Cusick Morgan Motorsports. Billy, do you have a copy?
I copy. How are you, Tanner?
I'm doing great. It's great to have you on the PRI Hoosier 500 pre-race show this morning. I believe you're coming in from the West Coast. Is that correct?
Yeah, currently I'm sitting in the office of an Airbnb. I'm out in Temecula, California for my son's lacrosse tournament. So we're well traveled. I'm heading back to Las Vegas tonight, and then I fly back to LA tomorrow. So
Oh man,
never. Yeah, the grass doesn't grow under my feet for too long.
that's that's exactly right. Well, I'm a Southern California native from Palm Springs, so I hope you enjoy getting to visit the area and down in the desert and all that. And thank you
I'll be
again.
out there next weekend at Thermal. So
Oh, even better. That's perfect. Obviously, Don Cusick, your partner in this operation, out there and enjoys his time at Thermal as well. We appreciate you joining us this morning and taking the time out of your day to chat and wanted to talk about. We'll get to support of the Hoosier 500 and stuff like that in a few moments, but wanted to kind of give you a bit of runway and opportunity to talk about some of the cool things that you guys have been doing. We did an article on Cusick Morgan Motorsports that appeared on our website and in the digital program a couple weeks back, just talking about the steady build from the initial one-off entries to the Indy 500 to now being a full-time competitor in Indy Next. You guys have not only built solidly to get to that point with the grassroots development side of things, but you've been legitimate contenders at the Indianapolis 500 now. So just kind of talk about how that journey's evolved and how excited you guys are for what you're doing in the 2026 season.
yeah, absolutely, and thanks for giving me the platform to do so. We are the smallest team out there, but it's something that we don't take no for an answer very well, and so we're always looking forward to what's next. And being a part of the 500 for the past 5 years has been the most incredible opportunity. We've had some great partners. I mean, most recently with Ryan Reinbold for the past 3 years. That is an operation over there that those guys run that is top notch. Everyone from top to bottom, they are the reason why we've gotten to where we are today and where we're going for tomorrow and the future. We've loved our time there, and this past year, Don and I sat down and said, if we're going to do this race thing, let's make it a business and let's really go for it. And one of the things that Don and I have a lot of passion about is development of the next generation. And that's not just for drivers, that's not just for the team, but overall everything in terms of the sport. So we look at Indy Next as an opportunity that is ripe for the taking. It's something that I don't want to say has been overlooked, but I think there is just so much opportunity that can be done now with the new Fox partnership that we looked at Indy Next as okay, this is the right thing to do for us. Um, Last probably April, we started talking a little bit more serious about this, and then in May, we went around and we interviewed with basically almost every single team in the Indy Next paddock. And um, like I said, the development series is something that we have a lot of passion for. Out of the Thermal Club, we are starting with On Track Performance, who is our parent company, and Cusick Morgan Motorsports. We're going to have a driver development program that goes on out there, starting from karting, hopefully building a ladder system all the way up to IndyCar. And for us, that's massively important. We're developing a partnership with Indiana University right now. I was just out there and sat on their Sports Business Council, which was just a fantastic event put on by students. Got to meet some, really great individuals, kids from freshmen all the way through grad students who are trying to break into the sports world and figure out what's next. And it was a real breath of fresh air to see that there's a lot of kids involved that want to be involved in motorsports. And we want to help that. We want to bring on the next generation, not only of driver and staff for the car, but also staff for the business, whether it be media personnel, business personnel, anything that makes the team run. We're really obsessed with the development of that.
Let's talk about the drivers in particular for this Indy Next program. You guys have tabbed Juan Manuel Correa and the Australian Nicholas Stady to be your drivers in Indy Next. What do you see in those two guys that made you feel good about picking them to be part of your lineup in 26?
Yeah, most important for us is that with this being our first year, we really wanted to make a splash. We wanted to help. We wanted to have a driver who has a brand behind them, and that's Juan Manuel. He's a fantastic young man. We've had some great conversation. He's actually coming out to Thermal next week to. We're going to do some filming and for a project that we're working on with him. He's going to do some coaching of my son, who's our first development driver in karting, and so having someone with a brand is going to help us out because if our name is going to grow, we want to make sure we have a story behind it. And for those who don't know Juan's story, I think it's something that needs to be looked into because it's amazing. He is just what he's gone through ever since his accident at Spa to now coming back and hopefully triumphing this year is just an amazing story. And so we want to help him get to the next level, get into an IndyCar seat hopefully next year as he progresses this through this season and finds himself on a podium and with a few trophies in the case. And so Juan is going to be a massively important piece to our growth. And then on the other side of things, Nicholas is the youngest in the field. He just turned 17. This is his first foray in the Indy Next. I met with him and his father when I was out at the IMS test a few months back. And, they have a lot of passion about growth, but also about Nicholas's education. They are very serious that, his dad joked and said, there's no racing without school. And so they're currently back in Australia right now on break, looking forward to coming out back to Florida for the test at Sebring and then Miami, and then the season starts. And so Nicholas has been a winner at every level. He just finished, I believe, fourth in the F4 test or the F4 race over in UAE. And so we look at this that we have a great chance with Juan Manuel to get out there and podium and win. And I think Nicholas is going to, shock the world and fight for that Rookie of the Year.
I was really intrigued about what you mentioned just a few moments earlier about checking in with the Indy Next teams and kind of getting a little recon on what their experiences have been. Obviously, don't have to share any proprietary details of those conversations, but I'm interested to hear you talk about momentum, and obviously the Fox deal is massive for Indy Next. It gives it a treatment akin to NASCAR's O'Reilly Auto Parts series as its second level underneath the main event. What did the teams tell you that made you guys feel great about moving into Indy Next?
Yeah, I think we were welcomed with open arms from all teams. That was really great. And so, the fact that they wanted to see a new brand get involved in Next, and you're starting to see that throughout the paddock. I mean, with AJ Foyt being in there, and I believe most big league IndyCar teams now have an association to Indy Next, which I think is massively important. And, it's everyone understood the direction where they wanted to go. I mean, there's no reason to have a feeder series if it's not feeding into the main event, and that's something that Fox and the other teams are really putting up new resources into their teams to help that. They want to have homegrown drivers and homegrown staff who cut their teeth in the next and then come up to the big leagues. And I think every team was well aligned there. And yeah, and like you said, Fox is very motivated to really grow this and make this work, and I think we just got in at the right time.
Talking right now with Billy Morgan, co-owner of Cusick Morgan Motorsports, a team that has made a splash in its early existence in the IndyCar open wheel ecosystem. Moving now to the Indianapolis 500. Again, we mentioned it at the top. You guys have really grown that into a nice program. You've partnered with the right people along the way. You were in true contention to win the greatest spectacle last May. Just talk about what May 2025 was like for this race team and how that builds momentum towards hopefully an expected 2026 presence at the 500 as well.
Yeah, 2025 was quite the experience. We had a great crew of partners that were with us that we hosted all week long. Something that it was a lot of new faces as well. So individuals who had never been to an Indy 500 before didn't have never really experienced the city of Indianapolis, and it showed off. It's a lot of work what goes into the month of May. I mean, Ryan Reinbold, like I said, they are true professionals from top to bottom. They work all year long for just this 1 month, and to see that get put into action and compete every single year. I mean, Dennis has never had a car not qualify, which is just amazing for being such a small team. And so to be a part of that was really incredible. And Indy is Indy. I mean, no matter where, as long as you're in the race, you have a chance. Whether you're on the pole or you're starting 33rd. I mean, there's a chance depending on when the cautions come out and what happens, because it's just something about that place is there's always magic. And I'll never forget, we were sitting, we got to the race and we got our sponsors all set up in our suite. And at that point, it was time to take a break. So I went and watched the majority of the race from our RV with Don and his wife, Carol, and my wife, Erica. We sat there and we were watching. And I'll never forget, it was around probably lap or with about 55 laps to go, and I was looking at Don and watching how Ryan was going along through the race and what was happening. And I finally said to him, I was like, Don, we're at the point now, like this might happen. If everything goes right, we may end up being in the winner's circle. So we have to start to plan for who are we going to have, which guests are we going to bring over to there. And it was one of those scenarios that we looked at each other like, we have no idea. It was such a foreign spot, but it was so exciting. And we're sitting there and, Ryan comes around and all of a sudden, absolutely phenomenal pit stop, gets in, tires change quick, fuels up, and then stalls. And I'll never forget the feeling of the highs of highs of if they completed that stop, we were going out and Ryan had that in the bag. And but that's Indy. It happens. You go from highs to highs to just sheer disappointment and the what could have been. And so, to be there and be that close, that's what motivates us. And that's what motivates all teams from top to bottom, is that everyone has that opportunity. And you're right, it is going to build for our goals for 2026 that we're working towards right now. And we will have a presence at the 500. I can tell you that. Just has not been finalized yet.
Awesome stuff to hear. Yeah, I think there were a lot of people pulling for Hunter Ray and Cusick at that point in time in the race. Cusick Morgan Motorsports, and it was tough to see, but yeah, I'm excited to see who you guys get. You've had some great driver lineups. Obviously, that's paid off with the run that you had in 2025, and if Indy picks the winners, as we usually say it does, I think it generally rewards people that are doing it the right way, like you guys are. The last thing I wanted to touch on, or a couple little things, I know you got to go here shortly, but just talk about, how did you get to this point? Where did the relationship with Don come from? What was your introduction to racing as as either a kid or if you picked it up later in life? Kind of what's the journey been to get to this point, really?
Yeah, it's a funny story actually, and I shared this when I was out at Indiana University last week. I've never had a racing background before. I've always been intrigued by the sports business as a whole, and never really knew how to get involved. And so I grew up in New England. I was born in a small town called Winchester, just north of Boston. Went to school up at Plymouth State University in New Hampshire. So I was exposed to NASCAR quite a bit. I played lacrosse in college, and one of our fundraisers that we used to park the cars at New Hampshire Motor Speedway for the NASCAR race. And so that's about the extent of the racing experience that I had. And when I graduated, I moved to California. Didn't really know what to do. I was a PGA professional back then, and I ended up meeting Don and his wife, who were members at the club. And and we really hit it off. And when I left the golf business, I did a couple different jobs, and then I ended up going to work for Don at his medical company. And Don hired me and said, I don't have a job for you, but I'll hire you. You just have to figure out where you're going to go with it. And so we did that for about 6 years and ended up selling the company. And at that point, Don joined the Thermal Club, and he's always had a passion for racing. He wanted to be an IndyCar racer as a kid, but never was able to make it. And so his goal was that he always wanted to go to the 500. And he ended up meeting through a connection out there, Stefan Wilson at Thermal. And, Don asked Stefan, hey, are you able to get me tickets to the Indy 500? I'd love to go. I want to experience it. Never been. And, Stefan said, well, I can't go there as just a fan. I can only go there if I drive. And Don's famous last words were, well, how can we make that happen? And that's when Cusick Motorsports was born. And so year one, I was not a part of the team. I was still working for Don and the other company, but I was a fan of his and watching to see where it went. And I thought it was just gonna be a one off. He would sponsor and go there, but then it came into year two when I started to get involved. Year three, more and more heavy, and then here we are today. And so it's something that I look at Don not only as a partner, but most importantly as a friend. He's been a mentor to me throughout business, and just is a fantastic individual overall from top to bottom. And so, we look at this. He's given me now the runway to and the opportunity to be a partner on this team and carry on his legacy. For years and years to come. I mean, my most important goal now at this race team is that one day his name will be on trophies, especially the Borg Warner at some point.
Awesome stuff. No, very, very cool journey to this point, and that kind of, for all accounts that I've heard to this point, exemplifies who Don is as well. Pretty cool dude that has been great for us. We're thankful that he saw the value in our event as a way to help promote the Indy 500 and IndyCar racing through sim racing. Had you ever been exposed to sim racing before all this?
On PlayStation, just playing with the F1 game and Gran Turismo, stuff like that. But now watching a lot of the videos, getting prepped for the Hoosier 500, I think is absolutely incredible. It's something that, as actually my family and I were moving to Indianapolis in February to really put our boots on the ground in Indy and be a part. And I think my son especially, he wants to get involved in sim racing, so that's going to be the next step we're going to look into. And I just think it's such a cool community that you guys have built and that's out there in the sim racing world. And watching that movie Gran Turismo with the kids who get involved and go to the Nissan team and race for that, I think it's a real thing. I mean, there's a lot of sim racers out there. And I think having this and giving them the platform of the Hoosier 500 is just such a unique opportunity that, it's something that everyone can drive, that they can strive for. If not everyone's going to be a race car driver, but if you can get behind the wheel of, in a sim, this is something that is just such a really fantastic opportunity for them to do.
Awesome. Well, again, we appreciate you joining the program this morning, and obviously appreciate Cusick Morgan Motorsports' support of the Hoosier 500. We're big fans of what you guys have done to this point, and obviously we'll be keeping a close eye on your 2026 season. Looking forward to hearing those 500 plans whenever they're formalized, and that comes out in due time. And thanks again. Enjoy the Southern California weather. It's less than 10 degrees out here in Indy right now. So whenever you get here in February, hopefully it's a little bit better for us weather-wise.
Yeah, we'll see. But, we couldn't have chosen a better time to move. If it's going to be the worst weather, we might as well start there. It can only get better, right?
That's the right approach to it. All right, well, we appreciate it. That's Billy Morgan with Cusick Morgan Motorsports. Have a great rest of your day, sir, and safe travels back to Vegas.
You as well, and good luck to everyone. Have a fantastic event. I look forward to watching.
All right, everybody. That's Billy Morgan with Cusick Morgan Motorsports. We'll move him out into the lounge now. And that brings us right up to our first pre-race ceremony, kicking off the festivities today. We've got a couple drivers from the Sim Racing Club at Purdue, a hallmark university here in the state of Indiana. And as has been tradition for many years, the Purdue All-American Marching Band has performed on the banks of the Wabash at the Indianapolis 500, and they'll do the same for us here on race morning at the PRI Hoosier 500. All right. That will close the book On the Banks of the Wabash, performed by the Purdue All-American Marching Band. We'll be back in just a few moments at the PRI Hoosier 500 today, the 500 pre-race show. We'll have Andrew Wood join us, driver from Powerslide Motorsports and an analyst on this month's coverage of the PRI Hoosier 500. On the other side of the break, we'll chat more about this month's storylines and get you set for this afternoon's PRI Hoosier 500 live from the Indianapolis Motor Speedway.
Look up. Out there, the universe stretches further than we can imagine. Filled with possibility. Filled with potential. Filled with untapped speed. When those lights drop, it's more than a start. It's ignition, a launch sequence, a controlled explosion of power and precision. Feel it. The violence, the beauty, the electricity of pure speed unleashed. This is the frontier, where innovation meets adrenaline and brilliance turns wrenches at 2 a.m. This is engineering at full throttle, fueled by vision, grit, and a relentless push for the next tenth of a second. Every detail matters. Every decision counts. Because excellence is not an accident, it's built. And this is the heart of it all. You, the racers, the dreamers, the doers, the builders, the tuners, the storytellers, the believers. This community isn't just connected by speed, it's powered by passion, a passion that refuses to slow down. Every race is a chance to push limits. Every lap a challenge. Every finish line a reminder of why we chase this life. Winning isn't just a moment, it's a mission. Landing on the moon? Well, that's racing's version of a perfect pass at 300 miles an hour. So buckle in, because this week, we go wide open. This week, we celebrate horsepower, innovation, and the people who make racing roar. This week, we reach beyond limits, beyond expectations, beyond gravity itself. Welcome to the PRI show. Let's show the universe what racing is made of.
And welcome back live to Today at the 500, presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply. Pre-race at the PRI Hoosier 500, setting the stage for the big broadcast at 11 a.m. Eastern Time here in the United States, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. That'll be over on the Performance Racing Industry YouTube and Facebook channels. So make sure you hop over. We're going to stop our stream a little bit early once we get closer to the 11 o'clock hour to give everybody time to head over and not miss anything once they get rolling at 11 a.m. with the big show. That'll be all of our big pre-race ceremonies, driver introductions, all the things that make the Hoosier 500 great. That'll be, again, over on the PRI Facebook and YouTube pages. Well, a great chat with Billy Morgan of Cusick Morgan Motorsports. They obviously have a huge commitment to IndyCar racing, the health of the sport and building it from the ground up. Really excited to see what they do in the coming months and years, especially as they unveil those plans for the 2026 Indy 500, which Billy vote of confidence there. They will be there, he says, so expect some announcements again in the coming months. We mentioned just a little while ago that we're going to talk a little shop with a good friend of mine, a driver in his own right who I've spent a lot of time on the track with and who did a great job as an analyst throughout the month of December on Today at the 500. It's Andrew Wood joining us in the booth. Andrew, how are you this morning? And welcome to race day at the PRI Hoosier 500.
Yeah, Tanner, I'm good. All the snow that Gary was talking about yesterday has now migrated its way over to the East Coast. So woke up to some snowy winter vibes here. Very not indicative of what we usually find on race morning, but here we are. And yeah, it's finally the day of the race. So much anticipation has been built up over the last few weeks here, and it's finally here. I never thought it'd actually be here, but here it is.
I first want to touch on, we'll get to the race itself in a moment, but a lot of fun yesterday having you on the call, as well as your appearances throughout the month of December on Today at the 500. What was it like being on the call for that Veterans 100 finish? That was wild, separated by just a thousandth of a second between Jason Brophy and Adam Blocker at the line.
It was definitely something I actually expected it to kind of finish that way just because of how these cars have raced in real life situations. That was actually my first time ever spectating and therefore calling an NXT race there. And yeah, the Veterans 100 never disappoints. And it's really, really a shame that the real life NXT cars aren't out there on the speedway, but hopefully they come back one day soon to really light up Carb Day and make it really, really spectacular. But calling that race was pretty crazy. It just showed how very, very difficult it is to pass in those cars, to get position, not the high line working so well, not the low line working to get so much of an advantage. So it turned into a really nice 2x2 situation there. But we had the best drivers in the sim racing community here driving to get that win. So it was crazy. It was really, really fun to watch.
Andrew, as you've competed at this event as a driver yourself, you've put on the different hat this month. You've done a really good job of keeping your pulse on the drivers in the paddock and how they feel about preparing for this race. You know, seeing it as you have this year. What's been your impression on the overall vibe of the event? You know, drivers. Excitement, you know, what's for those of watching at home, you know, who maybe aren't on the inner circle or in the Discord or whatnot, how do you convey the vibe the Hoosier 500 has around the iRacing IndyCar community?
Well, this is definitely a race that right from the onset back in 2019 there, it really took on a very, very high participation rate. People definitely like to participate in these kind of community events that really showcase the camaraderie, the competition, the little bit of hiding your cars to the last second sort of thing, anticipation of how the whole event is going to go. I think all those things definitely were kind of what the foundation was for this event. And every single year, you could see just by the participation as years have gone by, how much people cherish this and really want to keep the whole Indy 500 theme going, right? You do the race in May, and then it's kind of like, well, I got to wait a whole another 365 days until I'm back in this race again. But to have it kind of bookend, uh, you know, at half year intervals like that, kind of the way iRacing wants to do it in the middle of the year, and then a whole different planned event that is run slightly different, but a little more realistic. It just keeps the whole entire thing going. So now we only have to look for 5 more months to get to the next time you prepare for an 8,500. So every single year and every single event that goes on here with these special 500-mile races, it just gets more and more exciting. A lot of new faces, and it's really cool to see a lot of new participation and drivers that you don't necessarily think have a shot make the grid.
We're talking with Andrew Wood right now, commentator on Today at the 500, presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply. All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty of what we've seen this month. Big news this morning, Henry Bennett unable to go today due to injury, so he moves out of the starting lineup. Noah Carmichael, who was heartbroken on bump day, bumped out of the field on the final attempt of the weekend. Big news. That's a big shakeup this morning. It gives Noah his first chance at racing in the world's greatest sim race, and it takes out a driver who's obviously very accomplished in our discipline, has made this race each of the first 5 runnings, but unable to give it a go, and that takes a Powerslide Motorsports car off the grid.
Well, it's actually interesting because you were talking about how Noah got bumped out of the field. It was actually by a Powerslide driver, Brian Carey. So it kind of pushes one driver who may have been a little bit on pins and needles for his last run to get into the field, an opportunity to get in, but then Noah does wind up getting in at the expense of a Powerslide driver. So it's funny how that works out that way, but at the same time, these things happen. You know, we have alternates for a reason. Things come up, and especially something as unfortunate as an injury is something that nobody wants to see, but it gives an opportunity for another first-time driver to show up. And we were talking to Noah during the Today at the 500, during last week's events and everything, and you could just see the passion and the amount of preparation that Noah had put into it to make it into the field of 33, and he was in it and then got bumped out at the last second. So now he gets his shot at trying out racing with the big boys. And let's just hope that Noah didn't just pack it all up and leave. He had a lot to get on top of with all the new implementation of the hybrid deployment and things of that nature, setup changes and whatnot. So it's his opportunity to show that, hey, you know, I think I really did have a shot to make this field after all, by some act of God coming down. But I'm excited to see how Noah does. And I think he's going to take it just as seriously as he was making it seem during his time practicing last week.
Yeah, as you mentioned, Noah Carmichael, one of the drivers with the most laps completed in practice throughout the month of December, a total nearing almost 500. As we look at the pointy end of the grid, there's 6 Powerslide affiliated drivers in the first 2 rows. You've got a couple Team I5G drivers in Jacob Oster and Alexis Newsom in row 3. But again, behind them, another couple Powerslide affiliated drivers. So how does anyone that's not on the Powerslide side, how do you work your way into what's going to be a difficult bunch, not just because of the amount of numbers up front, but the quality of the cars that Powerslide has? And then B, if you flip it over, how do you maintain that advantage if you're Powerslide and try to carry a stronghold on the top 5 into the second half of the race? Because obviously everybody will be aiming for them, and everybody knows it's very important to kind of break up that monopoly up front, because it only gets harder and harder as the race goes on.
I think it's actually, it may seem like it's such a stronghold at the front, but at the same time, once you have a caution in the race and you have the opportunity to maybe go off strategy a little bit, that's exactly what the big super teams are kind of hoping for. You know, you want to cover all aspects of strategy. So having a lot of drivers in that side of things definitely makes it a little more disadvantageous for the big team to kind of dominate up front, because if you have, let's say, 9 drivers that are all at the front together, they're not all going to stay at the front on the same strategy all race long. So let's say caution comes out maybe about halfway through the first stint, you're definitely going to have a couple of the drivers stay out and then a bunch of them also pit and go off strategy a little bit.
Talking.
So right there, if you're sitting, let's say where Alexis is from, right around row 4 there, you're already going to have a few people off the track, and you're going to pick up a few spots that way.
Sure.
So right there, just organically, you're gonna be able to kind of break up the group a little bit, and then you're obviously going to bring some of the privateers with you. So that's one real thing that we're going to look for in today's races: who goes off strategy and does something a little bit different, and that puts you up front a little further, and then you kind of control your own destiny from there. So I think that's the best way to do it, and of course, just patience. If you feel like your car is going to have a little bit more in it than some of the guys up front, especially some of the drivers on that team are going to be a little bit weaker than others. So you could make a couple of passes here and there on a restart or something like that, and maybe even through pit stops, as we were talking about yesterday with the pit stop competition winners. Maybe they get a little bit of an advantage during the pit stop cycles.
Talking right now with Andrew Wood. So one thing that I've been intrigued with, basically through the summer, starting to put together storylines for the program and things like that. You've got a couple drivers in our pole sitter, Rob Malechka, and last year's defending champion, who he beat narrowly at the line, Phil Kraus, who starts on the outside of row 1. Over the last, let's say 12 to 24 months, they've really established themselves as arguably two of the best in our discipline in open wheel racing here on iRacing. Just talk a little bit about their budding rivalry. Obviously, it's got no hate associated with it. They're within the same team, both very courteous, and the gentlemen get along really well. But on track, they always seem to find themselves together at the front of the grid. And in the closing stages of these races, you can expect that they will be a factor. Just talk about Rob and Phil and how they've come along and really become two of the best in our community.
Yeah, well, Phil comes from other disciplines before he came to the IndyCar, so he definitely has a wide-ranging element of driving on the sim here. So he kind of started on a lower team initially, came to join Team Talent, the team that you and I were both on, and then found his way over to Power Slide more recently. So Phil definitely he approaches the races a little bit more relaxed and just kind of wants to feel out how the race goes before he really makes his moves towards the end. And he always gets a little bit more aggressive towards the end, and he always manages to lock in and not make any mistakes at all. And that usually shows him as victorious. Whereas Rob is long, uh, a long-term IndyCar driver. He was an Indy Fix driver for a while. Came onto the scene, I believe it was like 2022 time frame. We got him into the Indy Elite Series kind of as just a reserve to start. He was just kind of racing fix setups and maybe tweaking things here and there. And his prowess really comes from the car setup side of things. So he definitely has a lot more of his driving confidence. He drives 100% of the time, all the time. And sometimes he's a little aggressive, but aggressive in a good way. So that tends to be his strength, is just having raw pace, raw speed, going forward at every opportunity. So you have one driver who kind of measures what his race is going to be like, and then you have one driver who just has outright pace. And that's always the best recipe for a rivalry, right? So
Yeah.
you have two guys that really, really have different mindsets when it comes into a race, but they both have a great team element about them too. And they're always going to try and work together along with other members of the team to strategize and put themselves in the best spot and then race it out at the end.
All right, Wood. We want to, before we let you go, you've been feeling out this event. You've kept your eyes on it throughout the month with your commentary duties and have done a good job keeping your finger on the pulse. If you had to make a pick, who do you feel good about today in the PRI Hoosier 500?
Oh, man. I knew I was going to get asked this question, and I wanted to be prepared for it, and now I don't feel like I'm prepared whatsoever for it. there's just so many different good storylines for everyone in the field. Even some guys on Power Slide themselves, such as we'll take Josh Chin for example. He's not really so active in the car anymore, so he has such a legacy here. And coming back into this race, and then especially having to learn new stuff on the car, I'm actually very intrigued by how Josh is going to do today. He's able to just pick right up where he left off most times, just gets in the car and is able to do great things there. So I'm going to be keeping my eye on him in particular as kind of a dark horse within the team itself. Um, of course, Jacob Oster and Alexis Newsom, they do great things at the 500 as well on the I5G side of things. So I'm going to definitely be looking for them to do well. But I'm going to take a flyer here and go with someone maybe a little bit underdog. Like I'm going to look at Ty Killa a little bit. Ty Killa is an up and coming driver in this community. I've raced against him in the votive series, and I actually think he's prepared well. He was very fast in the final practice yesterday. I'm not going to call him for the win necessarily, but I actually think that he's going to surprise a lot of people and maybe have some time up front. And he may not be able to hold off the Power Slide stronghold, but I think he's going to get himself a good finish. But if you had to really, really nail down a pick for me for the win in this race, I can't vote against Moletska.
Yeah.
He just runs everything perfectly. I know it's a boring pick, and I apologize for that, but
It's okay.
But he's got every accolade at the 500 that you could think of, except for the Hoosier 500, Open Wheels 500 legacy. So if I really, really had to pick, I'm sorry, everyone, I'm picking Rob.
Well, I like the Ty Killa pick too. Good shout there, and again, there's a lot of quality up and down this field, so it's hard to go wrong with any decision you make. But Rob certainly hasn't put a wheel wrong. He was provisional pole sitter when he pulled his time on pole day, and went even faster and solidified the pole. So obviously, as you mentioned earlier, a lot of confidence with the driver, the number 91. Andrew, appreciate you joining us this morning. Again, want to say thank you so much for your contributions to the event this month. You've absolutely killed it on commentary at today at the 500 and on yesterday's Superior Shakedown Saturday. So just want to say we've really enjoyed having you on the program, and it's been fun to chat with you a little bit more often again, man.
Yeah, for sure. We've caught up quite a bit over the last couple of weeks after not talking since the 500 this year. So it was great to chat with you as well, and you've put on a great event here yet again. I'm sure that you've heard that plenty of times, and I'm sure you don't mind hearing it enough. So another successful event run here, and let's just hope that the race is just as exciting as the whole lead up has been. So thanks again for allowing me to be a part of this.
Awesome. Well, that's Andrew Wood, everybody, commentator for Oil and Gas Safety Supply today at the 500 and driver for Powerslide Motorsports. Thanks, Andrew.
Thanks a lot, Tanner. See you soon.
So, good chat with Andrew there. We are going to bring into the booth now his partner on today at the 500. It's Gary Godso now joining us live at the PRI Hoosier 500. Gary, welcome to Race Morning at the world's greatest sim race.
Good morning, race fans, and welcome to the Indianapolis Motor Speedway, where the management appreciates your attendance.
I love it.
That's my best imitation of Tom Carnegie. But there is no other day like race day in Indianapolis, whether it be in the virtual sense in December or in the real sense late in May. When you're a Hoosier and you're from here, everything just hits a little bit harder, and it's a simulation, but it's still real to me.
No, it's I love the introduction. Rest in peace, Tom Carnegie, and we keep that memory alive as a key individual in the history of the Indianapolis Motor Speedway in the 500. Gary, we were chatting with Wood just a little while ago about some of the storylines this month. The heartbreak that we saw on bump day with Noah Carmichael getting bumped out on the final run of the weekend. Now he's back in the field. We saw, the day before that, usually a key factor in Indianapolis racing here Marco Brazil burned all of his attempts on pole day and wasn't even around to make any additional attempts on Saturday. Just kind of talk about some of the storylines that have stood out to you over the month of December as we've kind of walked through these last 2 weeks to get to race day here.
I kind of got some bullet points of some storylines that I got in mind. The Power Slide Powerhouse, which you and Andrew were talking about, sweeping not just the first row, but the first 2 rows. And what do they got? 7 out of the top 9 positions are all Power Slide drivers. You're not going to see that in real IndyCar racing. The best you're going to see is Team Penske sweeping the front row, which they've done on 2 occasions in the Indy 500 history back in '88, and of course back in 2024. But that's the only 2 times it's ever happened in Indy 500 history. So to have one team take 2 complete rows, they could really control the tempo of the opening tempo of this race. Really, if they wanted to, they could script the whole thing. They could probably get a jump on everybody in the first 6 take off, and the rest of the field is left kind of catching them. But that's the Power Slide Powerhouse. Another thing that mentioned Andrew is this kind of Robert Malechka's quest to check that final box for his kind of his virtual IndyCar career, not getting a win here, and to a lesser extent, and we talked to Adam Blocker about that. This is a check box that he's looking for as well. So their efforts to check this last box. The one that really intrigues me are the rookies, but specifically we have rookie in name only, right? So Alexander Russell's a rookie in name only. When I say rookie name only, it's like Juan Pablo Montoya in the 2000 Indy 500. He's defending part champion. He dominated that race, one of the most boring 500s that I've ever been to, but he was just that darn good in that race. Alexander Russell, rookie in name only. He has a lot of experience in this car. Ryan Campbell, rookie in name only, has a lot of experience in this car. But if you go down to Nick Lucci and Jacob Bradley, who are relative unknowns, at least to this community, we don't know how much experience they really have in this car. But they were able to, not working with one of the big teams or in cooperation with another team, because a lot of these teams were working in cooperation with one another. They got in on their own with their own engineering from the Sim Racing Club at Purdue, and on their own merit of pace got into the field. So I think that says a lot. And I've been equating their story to the story of the Cutters from Breaking Away, which is a movie about the little 5 at IU. Now, they might not like the comparison, but it's very apropos. Now, the Cutters at IU eventually won that race. I don't know. I think Nick and Jacob's quest to win the race is long at best. But it would make for a nice movie, just like Breaking Away, if they were somehow get the win today.
Yeah.
Kraus to repeat is one of the storylines. Can Hugo go for 3? And then the other big storyline is this new car that we qualified on one thing, and we're getting something entirely different for race day.
Talking right now with Gary Godso, the voice of Today at the 500 and one of the voices of our lead coverage on the PRI Facebook and YouTube channels. And just about 40 minutes time from now, they go over to the big show. Gary, as you talk about this field, just a quick count right now: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, plus another 3 in the last row. Now we're up to 13 rookies, I believe, in the field, making their first start at the Hoosier 500 with the withdrawal of Henry Bennett this morning and moving Noah Carmichael back into the field. As you look at this rookie class, who really stands out the most? Obviously, Alexander Russell starting way up the grid in the middle of the first row, driving for a great team at Powerslide Motorsports. But you're very familiar with drivers like Kyle Klendworth. Obviously, you mentioned earlier the Purdue guys have impressed, and they did a great job over the fall building a set that got them into the race. Noah Carmichael, coming into qualifications weekend, had run more practice laps than anybody, and so he should be well prepared. There are the obvious curveballs with the hybrid and things like that, but Who's really impressed you the most in this rookie class?
Of course, there's Alexander Russell starting on the front row. He's one of the newest additions to Power Slide, formerly of Satellite Racing. But you can't turn away from him at all. Ryan Campbell with Rogue Racing. I guess he's the next best in class in terms of the rookie class. But he is a former race winner in the Indy Oval Series, former race winner in the Votive Indy Oval Series. He actually works for a real IndyCar team. He changes a tire for, at least last year, it was on Renus VK's car for Dale Coyne Racing. He's got a lot of experience, and again, rookie in name only. Matt Taylor, he's been in the community forever. He's got wins the Lionheart level, wins at the Indy Oval Series. He's kind of the master of Richmond. Both of his big broadcasted wins have come at Richmond, but he should be looked at and considered. And I'm going to go out and I kind of picked 4 rookies, and then go with Blaze Andrich. And he just narrowly missed the Pro Series cut, which is the butt kicker Indy Pro Series that will be starting after the start of the year. They all tried to qualify, or what the intended of iRacing was, is iRacing wanted them all to do the qualifying races in the Indy Next car, and then they would all do the regular series in the IR18 Dallara. And he just narrowly missed the cut. So you know that if you just narrowly miss the cut and you miss promotion, you're pretty good in terms of you're among the top 25 or so road racers kind of in this community. And so even though we're on an oval, those are the kind of the 4. But I know Ty very well. I know Clindy, of course, very well. I know Casey Povolonis. Those guys should do well if they execute on their strategy. So those are the rookies, and it's a very deep class, a very experienced class.
Talking right now with Gary Godso, the voice of P1 Broadcasting as well. Gary, as you get set to commentate the Hoosier 500 today, kind of just what's been your gauge of the experience? Being part of this event here in 2025 for the first time. We've really enjoyed having you be a leading part of it, and how much influence you've had over broadcasting this event and the coverage that you've brought to it. Really appreciative for that, and just want to hear what you've thought about the experience at this point.
It's humbling and honoring, first of all, to be here, to be considered for this. We've talked about this before. I'm born and raised in Indianapolis. I live in one of the north suburbs right now. When I was growing up in the 80s, yes, I'm a little bit older, but I'm not that old, but I'm a little bit older. Growing up in the 80s, we could not, now you can watch the Indy 500 locally. You just get, all you need is a VPN, and, you can probably find a provider that's streaming in the race. But back in the 80s, no internet, no nothing. The best we could do is either go to the race, or you had to tune in to WIBC or one of the other channels in the area that had the Speedway Network or the radio network, and tune in, and that's how you would listen to it. And the commentators would do the best they could do to paint the picture for you, but you couldn't really see how that picture really came out until later that night, when ABC, the local ABC affiliate, would show you the replay of the race on tape delay later that night. So the example I kind of gave for the annual was I remember hearing on the radio when Danny Sullivan spun out in '85 and didn't touch a thing, and the commentators were trying to do it. It was Ron Carroll, who was the call commentator or the turn commentator, and Paul Page, who was the voice of the 500 at the time. They did their best to paint that picture and to tell us that what was going on, and provide the soundtrack. But until you saw it on ABC later that night, you had no clue really, how close everything was from disaster there. But they were painting the picture, and you could feel the drama coming through the radio, and that's kind of what one of the things that kind of separates me and Arjuna. Arjuna's very much a TV guy. I have a face for radio. I'm always been a radio guy. I'm an old podcast guy, so I kind of come at this as a radio side of things. So I'm very humbled. Number one, to be working with Arjuna. Number two, to be working with you guys and such an important event, and to lend my voice to, I don't know if someone's going to be watching this later and go, I wasn't interested in IndyCar, but I heard something Gary said, and now I'm interested in IndyCar, or the call that Gary and Arjuna did that was so exciting. I want to get involved in this too. I want to go to the Indy 500. That's kind of all my goal is I want more people to pay attention to IndyCar. I want more people to pay attention to this community on iRacing, and I want more people to go to the Indy 500, come to my town, experience this bucket list experience, and then tell me if I'm wrong, tell me if I'm telling lies, and if I'm not, and you will like it too, and getting more people involved and more attention for the sport, more attention for the cars, more attention for the community. That's all I'm really after. And again, thank you. Very humbling, very honoring to be here with you guys, to be chosen, and to work with you guys all week, and also get a chance to work with Arjuna today.
Gary, before we let you go, obviously just about 30 minutes until the PRI broadcast. I want to give you time to prep for that and whatnot, but I won't ask you to pick any one specific driver, because you may save that for the pre-race show in just about 30 minutes from now. But if you had a few, who are the favorites in your eyes? Who are you keeping an eye on? Who's going to be hanging around there once that final pit stop's made, with the best chance to come home with that winner's milk bottle at the end of the day?
The Fair Oak Farms milk bottle, right?
That's right. That's right.
I mentioned some names already, and I'm not going out on a limb at all with saying Robert Malechka. We talked about Malechka. We talked about Kraus. We talked about Hugo, Alexander Russell. We talked about Ryan Campbell, Matt Taylor, Blaze Anders for the rookies. There's kind of this everyone else type of category I have that folks that I'm watching for. Alexis Newsom. Never sleep on Alexis. She won this race in the Lionheart Series and did one stop less than everyone else. Adam Blocker. Never sleep on him. And so I'll be watching him. Brendan had a very good pit stop competition. If he can continue what he did in the pit stop competition with fast stops in the race, he'll pick up some freebies on pit road and get into the late stages of this. But we got Rashad Craig out there. He's a former Indy Open Series champion. That's an open setup series for the official iRacing series. So we know he knows how to massage and change an open setup over the course of a race. Seb Alexander, he's the reigning Indy Oval Series champion right now. And even though that's fixed setup, he's been putting in a ton of work. He was one of the fastest cars in the early days of practice, but he said he had a tow. But, still, to get the car going that fast, you have to have a setup to at least get up to a certain speed and then allow the tow to take over. So we know he has pace. His team's been working all week long. And my good pal, Clindy. He obviously is a fixed Indy 500 master. He's learning his skill on the open setup side of things. He won a 400-mile open Indy 400 race on Wednesday in the Global IndyCar Challenge using the hybrid. So he actually has live fire hybrid experience in race conditions. So I'll be watching those guys as well.
All right, Gary. Well, we appreciate the professionalism and the quality of coverage that you've provided throughout the month of December. It's been great to have you as a part of this event, and you've really helped grow it. Hoosier 500 wouldn't be where it's at this year without you. So best of luck today on today's race broadcast. Really excited to tuning in at 11 o'clock. And, again, thank you for sharing, tons of wisdom along the way. You're I would say the Donald Davidson out there right now since Don retired.
That guy still has me beat. I forget. I forget more than he knows way more than I ever. But I appreciate that. I appreciate that a lot. Now my wife would only wish that I could remember birthdays and anniversaries so well. So we have room for we have room for improvement. But thanks everybody, and stand by. We're going to kick the tires and light the fires here in a little bit. Go green flag racing as we watch 11 rows of 3 go from 50 feet wide on the front straight, barrel down into turn 1. Even though it's 60 feet, it's a little less than 60 feet, and it kind of gets narrow down there after a while. And we'll see if we can make it out on the other side. But I have a lot of faith in this field. There's a lot of experience here, and I think we're going to see a lot of green flag racing today. So hope everyone's ready to get up on it and see a lot of action. 500 miles yet to go.
As race director, I hope we see a lot of green flag racing as well. I think that makes things a lot easier on the rest of us, and it puts on the best show. So that's Gary Godso. You can catch him in 28 minutes from now on the Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube pages when the big broadcast for the PRI Hoosier 500 goes live. Thanks again, Gary, and best of luck on the broadcast, man.
Thank you, and have fun in the stewarding chair as well.
All right. That's Gary Godso, everybody. Indianapolis resident, lifelong fan of IndyCar, leads P1 broadcasting, and does it really well. We're very thankful to have Gary as part of the ecosystem here at the PRI Hoosier 500. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we'll bring in my partner at the Hoosier 500, Ryan Schold, co-owner and chief development officer at the Hoosier 500, to bring us down in the home stretch here on Today at the 500 pre-race, presented by Oil and Gas Safety Supply.
Look up. Out there, the universe stretches further than we can imagine. Filled with possibility. Filled with potential. Filled with untapped speed. When those lights drop, it's more than a start. It's ignition, a launch sequence, a controlled explosion of power and precision. Feel it. The violence, the beauty, the electricity of pure speed unleashed. This is the frontier, where innovation meets adrenaline and brilliance turns wrenches at 2 a.m. This is engineering at full throttle, fueled by vision, grit, and a relentless push for the next tenth of a second. Every detail matters. Every decision counts. Because excellence is not an accident, it's built. And this is the heart of it all. You, the racers, the dreamers, the doers, the builders, the tuners, the storytellers, the believers. This community isn't just connected by speed, it's powered by passion, a passion that refuses to slow down. Every race is a chance to push limits. Every lap a challenge. Every finish line a reminder of why we chase this life. Winning isn't just a moment, it's a mission. Landing on the moon? Well, that's racing's version of a perfect pass at 300 miles an hour. So buckle in, because this week, we go wide open. This week, we celebrate horsepower innovation, and the people who make racing roar. This week, we reach beyond limits, beyond expectations, beyond gravity itself. Welcome to the PRI show. Let's show the universe what racing is made of.
And welcome back to the world's greatest race course. It's race day at the PRI Hoosier 500. Pre-race coverage live on the Hoosier 500 YouTube channel before we get set for the main event. The broadcast on the Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube channels at the top of the hour, just 22 minutes from now at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 8 a.m. Pacific Time. And we hope to see you over there for the bulk of pre-race ceremonies. Before we bring my partner Ryan Schold into the booth and to do a little bit of chat on the race ahead, let's talk about the remaining pre-race ceremonies. We'll have God Bless America in just about 7 minutes from now, performed by Morgan Gruber, country music recording artist. And then after the 11:30 hour, we'll get the invocation from Neil Hinders, community pastor at Connection Point here in Brownsburg. The rifle volley and taps performed by our U.S. military, the national anthem by Clayton Anderson, country music recording artist, and the flyover from the United States Air Force B-2 Spirit stealth bomber. That all sets the stage for Back Home Again in Indiana, performed by the one and only Jim Cornelison, just before green flag. And just under an hour and a half until the green flag. As we roll along in our pre-race coverage, going to bring my partner Ryan Schold into the Today at the 500 studio, co-owner and chief development officer here at the PRI Hoosier 500. Ryan, good morning, brother. It's race day, and it feels good to get to this point after a lot of planning over the last 12 months.
Yeah, good morning. It's race day. So glad that we're finally here. It's been 12 months of a lot of work on pretty much every aspect of this event, from us two to everyone else that doesn't get the kudos they deserve either. So we're finally here, about an hour away, a little over, and we'll be at the green flag.
Ryan joins us from Indianapolis as well, local here and longtime fan of the 500 and IndyCar racing. Ryan, I think one of the unique aspects of this year's Hoosier 500 and where we took this event forward a step from the Open Wheels 500 days back in 2019, 2020, the community involvement and getting local partners involved in this event. Obviously, the support from PRI, who's now headquartered here in Indianapolis, makes a huge difference. If you could, just talk about the community involvement and the support we've gotten from Indiana-based companies like, a PRI, like a Fair Oaks Farms or an Anderson Speedway. There's a handful of them out there, and they've made this event a little bit more special because of that.
Yeah, we wouldn't be where we're at with this year's race without all of those. So I think we both did a really good job of just having a really targeted approach, finding local companies that we thought might find this to be just a really fun community event, number one, and two, have a desire and passion for whether it's sim racing or the real Indy 500 or both. And we've been very fortunate to find, 7, 8, 9, 10 really good partners that are almost all local to come on board and be a part of this year's event. And obviously the plan is to have hopefully all those come back and be a part of this again next year. So I think just making it so much more of a local community event has really helped. We do have a couple partners that maybe aren't from Indy, but the vast majority are, and those folks are what's made this event so good.
Talking about some of the partners based in Indiana and Indianapolis in particular, Visitor Watch Company being one of those, and Phil Rodenbeck and the awesome work that he does over there. Created a custom bespoke watch for the occasion. Just talk a little bit about the collaboration and getting to work with Phil and what he and his company have brought to the support of the event. I feel like we've been really fortunate to build out the relationship with him, where initially we kind of just lined up a partnership from a sponsorship perspective. And I even remember us being down at Daytona for Daytona 24, how cool that was to announce that, and the fun things we had that rolled out with that announcement. But then it grew from there with the custom PRI Hoosier 500 watch from Visitor Watch Company. Just talk about what the experience has been like working with Phil and what he's brought to this event.
Yeah, Phil's been so great to work with. It all started with him and his company being the official timing partner, very similar to like Rolex with Daytona International Speedway and stuff like that. So that's where it all started and really blossomed from there. We, being yourself and I, met with Phil and Mike Good at PRI, and that's kind of where the idea of the custom watch came to be. And I can't thank Phil enough for being so open-minded with this whole process. Sim racing is very, very new to him. He obviously knows what the Indy 500 is, but in terms of iRacing, our event, I don't think he had a clue, frankly, until we spoke with him. And he's just been so bought in from the start. He was at the PRI show all 3 days promoting the event, promoting his custom watch. And he's just been so great to work with and come to us with such creative ideas on how to make the watch truly unique. And, he knocked it out of the park. I don't think you or I could ask for anything better. He's been a true pleasure to work with this year.
Talking right now with Ryan Scholl, the co-owner of the PRI Hoosier 500 and Chief Development Officer. Ryan, so you run obviously with Little Eagle Racing, who had some bullets in the chamber for qualifications weekend, came very close to making the race with a few of the drivers and had a good run. Just talk about that team and what you guys learned along the way, and how that step of walking into an open setup event, which is a bit unique for the team, how all that went and what the experience was like for the fellas.
Yeah, I think we had a lot of fun giving it a go. Frankly, we obviously do not have the speed of some of these teams, but I think we're inching, closer and closer every May for the iRacing Open 500, or, every December for this one. The first time we ever tried it was just me and Hunter, I think 4 years ago, and we were frankly nowhere close. And, we're less than like 300ths off now, which is still a decent chunk of time to find, but I think we're slowly getting there. And, hopefully we'll get one of the Little Eagle cars in the show one day. But we had a lot of fun giving it a go. We turned plenty of laps, tested more than we really ever have, since we don't typically do a ton of open stuff. And, we got relatively close, but obviously we want to be in those 11 rows next year if we can just find that little extra pace.
As you look ahead to this Hoosier 500 coming up at 12 o'clock, a green flag estimated time, who stands out to you? We've obviously talked about the Robert Malechkas. Power slide is dominant. You've got guys like Jacob Oster. Alexis Newsom is up there. And then you get past that, outside the big two teams, we'll call it, with I5G and Power Slide. Chad Simpson starting 12th. Ryan Campbell for Rogue Racing starts 13th. Kind of on back from there, you get your satellite racings, your Rogue Racings, your MadWorks, Indy Alliance Racing, and the likes of the others. Who do you see as threats to the big teams, and who can make some noise in that space late in the race?
Yeah, I'm going to go with the 83 car. AJ's been quick all month. I know he's turned a lot of laps. As I understand it, he's more or less kind of independent on his own, and he's also sporting our PRI Hoosier 500 livery today. So I would love it if he can get his way to the front. The amount of work he's put in, I've talked to him a little bit this week, is crazy for me to imagine. He's turned a lot of laps to get into the show and try to figure out this hybrid in just 3 days. So hopefully he can find his way to the front. I know he's got some speed, and we'll see what he can do. Hopefully he can take some of the challenge to the power slides of the world and find his way towards the front.
All right, well, we are going to move along in our pre-race proceedings here. We've got a special performance coming up of God Bless America, performed by Morgan Gruber, country music recording artist, here at pre-race with PRI Hoosier 500. All right, and that was God Bless America, performed by Morgan Gruber. Thank you to Morgan for being part of the Hoosier 500 this year. 10:48 a.m. We got about 9 minutes left in today's pre-race coverage. We'll kick off coverage on the main broadcast at the Performance Racing Industry Facebook and YouTube channels at the top of the hour. So we'll get out of here a little bit early, give everybody time to head over to the main show where you'll see a lot of the heavy hitters of pre-race and the pomp and circumstance here at the Hoosier 500. Talking still with Ryan Schold, co-owner and chief development officer at the PRI Hoosier 500. And Ryan, for folks at home, want to give an opportunity for people to get an understanding of who helps make the Hoosier 500 great. We've talked about the advancements that Cusick Morgan Motorsports has made with Billy Morgan earlier this morning. Talked with Gary Godso on his background at the Hoosier 500 as well as the Indianapolis 500 and being an Indiana resident. For the folks listening at home that may not know who you are, and as we try to explain who the leadership team is a little bit, give a little bit of your background on becoming an IndyCar fan, an Indy 500 fan, and how you got into sim racing as well.
Yeah, so from an IndyCar perspective, it kind of starts with my dad. He was graduating from school in the early 90s and interviewing around, and actually stayed in the old hotel outside of Turn 2 when he was interviewing for the job he ended up taking. So that's how my mom and him ended up here in Indy at one point or another. And when I was 6 years old, he took me to my first 500. When I first ever went, I did not like the sound apparently, but I figured it out after a few laps and been hooked ever since. 2001 was my first Indy 500. Been every year since, and frankly wouldn't miss it for basically anything. So been a fan for a long time. Obviously Indy 500 here locally since I'm in Indy, but we try to get to one other IndyCar race a year, whether it's Iowa, Milwaukee, other races that are at least somewhat close. I think we're going to try and get to Barber this coming year. So that's kind of where my fandom started way back in 2001, and it's just grown since. For sim racing, I think I got iRacing in like 2012, and have been on the service since then. Today, I do a lot of league racing and do special events, and we'll trickle in some other stuff throughout the year, but that's kind of what I mainly focus on now. And I know with Little League Racing, we're trying to get a little bit more involved in some of the official stuff and some of the open setup stuff, which is kind of a goal for next year. But yeah, I've been around racing for a long time, fortunate enough to work in it for a while too, out of school, and been on the sim service for, I guess, 13 years now, which is kind of crazy to think about.
If you had to pick one, what's the best race to attend that you've attended to this point? Obviously, you still got a couple you want to check off that list, but of the ones that you've been to that aren't named the Indianapolis 500, who would you pick out of that list and recommend for somebody to go check out?
Yeah, so I'll give kind of one of each main series here in the U.S. So from a NASCAR perspective, the Southern 500 at Darlington was my favorite event to work. Was fortunate enough to work it for 3 years, and then also got to go as a fan. And being there as a fan, it's just the most old school track on the calendar. There's zero service there. You are forced to just be there and be in it for 500 miles in one of the most marquee NASCAR races on the calendar. So that would be the NASCAR one that I would suggest to get to. Sports cars, you got to get to the Rolex 24. I've got a campsite in turn 3 and 4 of the oval. Obviously, Tanner, you've gone with me. Try to get down there every other year. And then from an IndyCar perspective, I think St. Petersburg is extremely underrated. I went there every year when I was working at NASCAR because it's just on the other side of the state, and just a lot of fun, a lot of access. GA ticket can get you basically anywhere, and you can more or less walk to every corner and really get to have a unique experience of through the 90 laps or whatever it is, getting to every corner and watching some of the action.
Just about given opportunity. Obviously, we're in race control, so we ain't partial to anybody, that's for sure. But from your observances throughout the month of December, what's your gut instinct on who's going to be up front today? We know that power slide's going to be tough. Robert Malechka has been a very popular pick to this point. If somebody's setting lines or handicap in the field here for the 500-mile race, where would you lean?
Yeah, so I think there's a couple guys that I'll be certainly keeping an eye on who maybe aren't in that top 10. For me, it's AJ, like I mentioned earlier. I think he's just got some speed, been turning a ton of laps. And then Seb Alexander as well. He's a guy that I've gotten to know via the Elite Racing League. One of the best on the service that I've ever been around, at least. So certainly has some pace. He's always right there with strategy options and making the right call to try and get himself to the front, which I think there's going to be at some point, we'll probably get a yellow today, and that's when we're going to see strategies mix up, and that's where you can look for Seb to find his way closer to the front.
Working through the field of 33 here, I've really been impressed with the Sim Racing Club at Purdue guys. I think they've done a good job where it seems like they started from basically nothing. Don't think they've gotten a ton of traditional community support from the big teams or the usual suspects, I guess, that you'd expect to be out on track making noise here. So pretty cool to see them put together an effort that put 2 cars in the field. You mentioned AJ Musselman carrying the PRI Hoosier 500 Special Edition Little Eagle Racing paint scheme in the race, so that'll be
That's right.
very, very cool to watch. And then Dylan Freckleton, he's made this race as an independent every year. Each of the 5 runnings, driver from the UK. Pretty cool to see him again in this field. He rolls off 22nd today. So a great effort from some teams that you would find outside the normal power circle here at the 500, and I think having limited qualifications attempts and the pressure that comes with that helps level the playing field a little bit and generates opportunities for some of these teams that have a passion for the 500, that certainly have an understanding on how to get in the box and build a car that can at least compete to qualify for the race. And as we've said on other occasions this morning, once you're in the race, then you've got a chance. And that line of thought is even more prevalent this week with the introduction of the hybrid. Has your team done any work with the hybrid power plan and how that's been added to the car since qualifications ended on Sunday? We had the update on Tuesday. So this is a completely different car than when the pressure was on last on bump day. Could you share any insight on how the hybrid has been reacting in iRacing?
Yeah, so I don't know a ton about it, but I did do some testing with the 4D Racewear guys. Little Eagle and 4D kind of partnered together to try and get one of our guys into the show, and we did get Christopher Fowler into the race. I don't know if he'd like me giving away what he thinks the secret is there, but we have done some work with it, and I think there's a couple specific points on track where it might be most useful to assist in the acceleration, since the car is certainly heavier than it was 5 days ago. So that's kind of how we felt, at least. Now, do we have the number of people? Are we as quick as the power slide guys? Definitely not. So our feeling might not be exactly what they think, but that's kind of where we are at. I think there's a couple points on track specifically where it's going to be most useful to try and get to that top speed as quickly as you can on the straightaways.
All right, Ryan. As we get to the end of our broadcast window here, first and foremost, I want to say thanks. It's been great having you be my partner along the way with planning the Hoosier 500 and getting us to this point. Obviously, this was kind of our original plan in early 2021 before I ultimately got out of the game for a little bit. So to see it come to fruition and do this together, it's been really fun. I'm really proud of what we've put forth as a product this year, and hoping we have a great race, a great 500 miles coming up. Thanks for being a kick-ass partner along the way, man.
Yeah, it's been a ton of fun. We're finally here. Basically, we've got the big show and kicking off in about 2 minutes, and couldn't have done it without you. got to give a quick shout out to our wives too. I haven't
That's
seen
right.
mine a ton the last couple weeks, so
Yep.
thank you to them as well for letting us put so much time into this to make this as good as possible. And the main event is here in probably about 90 seconds. So
Malia, Logan, we owe you dinner in short order here. But that's Ryan Schold, co-owner and chief development officer of the PRI Hoosier 500. Well, folks, it's time to head on over to the Performance Racing Industry Facebook or YouTube pages. You can watch today at the 500 pre-race over on their channels, leading right into green flag at the 2025 PRI Hoosier 500. 33 of the world's best racers compete at the world's greatest sim race, 500 miles to glory. It all starts in 1 minute. Head on over to the PRI Facebook and YouTube pages. We'll see you on the other side. Have a great race day, everybody, from the world's greatest race course in Indianapolis.